Hey guys, this is Rupesh from Beebom.com, and yeah, it's actually me. Trust me, I'm Rupesh, I'm not kidding. But yeah, let's ignore this and focus on these. Yeah, these are Motorola's new phones that have just launched in India, the Motorola Edge 20 and the Motorola Edge 20 Fusion. Now, these are phones that have got me interested because they bring in clean stock Android experience with good specs at a price that seems pretty good. So yeah, what are you waiting for? Let's not waste any more time and talk about my first impressions of the new Edge 20 phones. Okay, so this is the Motorola Edge 20, which starts at Rs 29,999, and Edge 20 Fusion, which starts at Rs 21,499. Now, I'm going to start with the Motorola Edge 20 because that's the more exciting phone of the two. I mean, starting off, the first thing that came into my mind when I held this phone first up is that this looks and feels like a very premium smartphone. So it has this squarish sort of boxy design that I personally find really cool. And the best thing about the Edge 20 design is that it's probably the slimmest and lightest phone I have used in this segment. It's just 6.9 millimeters thin and weighs in at around 163 grams, which is really good. In comparison, phones like the Note 2 and the Poco F3 GT, they feel like hefty phones at 189 grams and 205 grams. As for the build, the Edge 20 has an aluminum frame with the dedicated Google Assistant button on the left side. There's also the fingerprint scanner embedded in the power button on the right, which is pretty fast. And there's a single speaker on the bottom along with the dual SIM slot. And to let you know, there's no headphone jack, there's no micro SD slot. And do note that this whole design is IP52 rated for splash resistance. Now the frame here is metal, but the back is actually plastic, but it honestly had me fooled because it looks very much like glass. In fact, it has this matte finish which just feels like glass. Anyway, on the back there's also the big camera bump. Now I say big because there's no way you can rest this phone on the table and use it. Moving on to the front, the display is one of the big USPs of the Edge 20 because it's a 6.7-inch AMOLED with the 1080p resolution, DCI-P3 color space, HDR10 Plus support, and an amazing 144Hz refresh rate with up to 576Hz touch response rate. That is crazy. A 144Hz OLED in this price range is a big deal. And even though I've only used the Edge 20 for a day, I think the display looks bright and beautiful with all the OLED traits, and it's very responsive. I mean, the UI just looks so smooth, as you can see. Plus, the AMOLED panel here is a 10-bit panel, unlike most phones in this segment which have 8-bit panels. Now, for people who don't know, 10-bit displays can show you over 1 billion colors. On the other hand, 8-bit displays can show you around 16 million colors. So yeah, the display on the Edge 20 is top-notch. Now, what's also interesting is the chipset here. The Motorola Edge 20 is the first phone in India to be powered by the new Snapdragon 778G chipset with the Adreno 640L GPU. Now, the 778G is a capable chipset. It is based on the 6nm node and features Cryo 670 aka Cortex A78 cores that can go up to 2.4 GHz. Now, this is a 7 series chipset, but it's fairly powerful. To give you an idea, the Snapdragon 778 should be more powerful than, say, the Snapdragon 860, and it should be comparable to the Dimensity 1200 thanks to its Cortex A78 cores. So yeah, it all seems promising. Also, the Snapdragon 778G is a 5G chipset, and I like the fact that the Edge 20 is a proper 5G phone with 11 5G bands. And yeah, there's 8GB of RAM, 128GB of storage, and support for Wi-Fi 6E. Now let me make it clear that the Edge 20 I have is a production unit, not a final retail unit, as you can see from this text. So I can't judge its performance or run any benchmarks yet. But you know what? I'm positive about the 778G in this price range, especially with the clean stock Android experience that Motorola offers in its phones. The Edge 20 and also the Edge 20 Fusion come with Android 11 on board, with 2 major Android updates plus 2 years of security updates guaranteed. Now, the great thing about the stock Android experience here is that there's no bloatware, absolutely nothing, and there's no adware, no weird permissions anywhere or recommendations in the setup, just nothing. It's a very clean experience. Plus, there are a few handy features from Motorola. For example, there's Ready For, which now works wirelessly. So you can use this feature to connect the Edge 20 or Edge 20 Fusion to a Miracast supported TV or even your PC to get a desktop experience where you can open apps from your phone, multitask. I mean, you can even play games on the bigger screen if you like that. It's pretty cool, especially since all of this works wirelessly now. As for people wondering about the BGMI performance, I will be testing it out, but to let you know the default graphics settings, it's HD and high, but there is support for HDR and Ultra, or you can go with smooth and extreme. Next up, I want to talk about the cameras. So the Edge 20 comes with a 108 megapixel primary camera, a 16 megapixel ultra wide angle lens, But what really has got my attention here is the 8 megapixel telephoto lens with 3x optical zoom support and optical image stabilization. See, the telephoto lens is interesting because none of the popular phones in this whole 25 to 35k price segment have a telephoto lens. Not the OnePlus Nord 2, not the Poco F3 GT, not the Mi 11X. All of these phones have either a user's macro lens or a depth sensor. So yeah, a telephoto lens on the Edge 20 is a good move. It's a great move if you ask me. Anyway, as for the camera performance of the Edge 20, it's too early to judge, and like I said, this is a production unit. But I took some shots, and yeah, here are some shots from the 108 megapixel camera to give you an idea. Now, here are a couple of ultra wide angle shots, and now here are a couple of 3x zoom shots to give you an idea about the telephoto lens. Now, the photos seem good in my brief use, but I just want to say that it's high time Motorola updated the camera app on this phone. It just looks outdated and sort of clunky. Not a big deal, but yeah, it deserves an update. Lastly, there's the battery. The Edge 20 comes with a 4000 mAh battery with the 30-watt turbo power charger in the box. Now, that was a look at the new Edge 20. Now, I know a lot of you guys are also interested in the Edge 20 Fusion, so let me give you an idea about that as well. So this is the Edge 20 Fusion in all its glory, and we have the black variant of the phone, and even the back and frame are plastic here. I like that it's a matte finish, which is not a fingerprint magnet. Anyway, I like that the phone has a dedicated Google Assistant button just like the Edge 20, and the design here is also IP52 rated. Plus, it has a headphone jack as well as a micro SD slot, both of which the Edge 20 lacks. Also, even though it has a bigger battery than the Edge 20, it's still fairly light at 185 grams and 8.2 millimeters thickness. Now, apart from the design, here are the specs of the Edge 20 Fusion. It has got a 90Hz AMOLED panel with HDR10 DCI-P3 coverage, and this too is a 10-bit panel, which is actually great. It is powered by the MediaTek Dimensity 800U chipset, which is a pretty good chipset in this price range when compared to the competition. It also supports 5G, and the Edge 20 Fusion has 13 5G bands, which is probably the most 5G bands on a phone in India, which makes it more likely to support 5G whenever it arrives in India. When it comes to cameras, there's the 108 megapixel primary camera, 8 megapixel ultra wide angle lens, and a 2 megapixel depth sensor. On the front, like the Edge 20, it has a 32 megapixel camera. As for the battery, it has a 5000 mAh battery with the 30-watt turbo power charger on board. So the specs seem good for the price, and yeah, it brings the same clean stock anode experience. Look, overall, in my brief usage of the Motorola Edge 20 and the Motorola Edge 20 Fusion, I feel these are phones that have a good combo of specs, be it in terms of display, processor, cameras, 5G, etc. And there's also the clean and nice experience, which is important, especially with OnePlus moving Oxygen OS to Color OS. So yeah, these phones could be good options for anyone looking for good all-round smartphones with a clean Android experience. I mean, honestly, I'm yet to use these phones as my daily driver, but so far, I'd say my experience has been positive. Anyway, I want to know what you guys think of these new Motorola phones, so make sure to comment below. Also, give this video a like if you enjoyed it, make sure to share it, and subscribe to our channel for more amazing tech videos. Well, that's me signing off. Thanks for watching, and I will see you in the next one. Yes, me, not Rupesh.